I want you to just imagine something for a second.
Yeah.
Think back to the very last time you looked up into the night sky and, truly saw stars.
Oh, that's a tough one for a lot of people.
Right. And I don't mean just a handful of those faint little twinkling dots fighting their way through that kind of orange, hazy urban soup we're all used to.
Yeah, that glowing dome.
Exactly. I mean, a sky that is just absolutely overflowing with stars. A sky so deep and so crowded that you could actually see the Milky Way, like that cloudy band of our own galaxy, just stretching from horizon to horizon.
It's incredible when you actually get to see it because it casts its own faint shadow on the ground.
Yes. But the thing is, if you are listening to this deep dive right now, statistically speaking, that memory is almost certainly tied to a remote vacation.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Like maybe you were out camping in a massive national park or driving through the middle of the desert in the dead of night. It is highly, highly unlikely that your memory of a sky like that happened while you were just standing in your own backyard.
It really is a profound shift in the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what's totally wild to me is just how incredibly quickly it has all happened.
Right, because historically, this wasn't a rare thing at all.
Not at all. For literally all of human history. I mean, for hundreds of thousands of years, that breathtaking, overwhelming view of the cosmos was just, well, it was just what the sky looked like every single night.
It was the default.
Exactly. It was the absolute baseline backdrop to human existence. Everyone had access to it. And now, within the span of barely a century, it has become like a luxury commodity, a tourist attraction you have to drive hours to go see.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We've gathered an enormous stack of source material, mostly centering around a really comprehensive Wikipedia article on light pollution. And we are going to, really unpack what is actually happening to our night sky.
Because it's not just about losing a pretty view. That's the biggest misconception.
Right, exactly. We are diving into hard satellite data, massive public health studies, and ecological tracking to figure out how this glowing haze is actively rewiring our ecosystems.
And changing our cellular biology.
Yeah, and even altering the atmosphere itself. And importantly, we are going to look at the surprising, entirely feasible ways we can actually fix it.
Which is the good news.
Yeah.
But to really grasp the scope of this, we have to start by asking you to do something that might feel deeply counterintuitive.
Which is what?
You need to temporarily stop thinking of light as purely good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is hard because we are totally wired to like the light.
Right. From the time we are children, we are conditioned to equate light with, safety, warmth, progress, modern civilization. The monster is in the dark, right? And the safety is in the light.
Right. The porch light keeps the bad guys away.
Exactly. But we need to shift that perspective today. We need to start understanding artificial light at night, not just as illumination, but as a profound environmental alteration.
An alteration? I like that word.
Yeah, it is an active, man-made introduction of a disruptive element into the environment with severe consequences that go way, way beyond just astronomy.
I love that you use the word alteration because before we can really understand the damage, we have to define what we're actually dealing with here. When we say light pollution, I think the instinct is to just treat it as a nuisance.
Yeah, like a neighbor being annoying.
Right, like, oh, the street lamp on my corner is kind of bright. I can't see Orion's belt from my porch. But the research explicitly defines it as a physical alteration of natural patterns of light and dark in ecosystems.
Right. It isn't just a subjective annoyance. It is a fundamental, measurable change to the baseline conditions of the planet.
Because everything relies on that dark, right?
Exactly. Life on Earth evolved over billions of years under a very strict, incredibly reliable rhythm. Bright, warm days and dark, cool nights. Every biological system is tied to that metronome.
And we just completely broke the metronome.
We did. By pumping artificial photons into the night, we are breaking that rhythm. And the sheer scale of this alteration is staggering. The current data indicates that 83% of the entire global population now lives under light-polluted skies.
Which is a massive number on its own. But if you look specifically at populations in the United States and Europe, that number jumps to 99%.
99%. It's almost absolute.
Basically, everyone you know, everyone you interact with on a daily basis is living their entire life under an altered sky. And the footprint of this pollution is just growing at warp speed.
Yeah, the growth is what really scares me.
Right. The sources say that globally artificially lit surfaces increased by at least 49% from 1992 to 2017. We basically supersized our light footprint in a single generation.
It is expanding so rapidly, and it's heavily concentrated. We see these severe regional hotspots that are essentially obliterating the night entirely.
Like where? Where's the worst?
Well, Singapore is currently ranked as the most light-polluted country in the world. And a few years back, Hong Kong was actually declared the single worst light-polluted area on the planet.
Wow. Hong Kong took the top spot.
Yeah. And we are seeing these massive, severe hotspots developing along the entire eastern coastline of China as their industrial and economic infrastructure accelerates.
Right. More buildings, more light.
Exactly. But the really insidious thing is the impact radius. Take Madrid, for example.
Okay, what about Madrid?
The light dome generated by the city of Madrid can be physically detected and felt by ecosystems up to 100 kilometers away from the city center.
100 kilometers? Wait, so you could drive for an hour away from the city?
Yeah, you can hike out into what you think is the remote wilderness, an hour outside the city, and the sky above you is still fundamentally altered by its presence.
That is wild. You know, when I first started looking at the source material, my initial thought was to compare light pollution to a leaky faucet.
Like a slow drip.
Yeah, like a constant drip wasting a resource. But as we get into the biology later, I realized that's totally wrong. A leaky faucet just wastes water. Light pollution is more like someone blasting an air horn in your neighborhood every time the sun goes down.
That is a much better analogy.
Right. It's an active disruption of a necessary biological state. Which brings up a huge question for me. If this is acting like a biological air horn affecting 83% of humanity, why did it take so long to recognize it as a problem?
Yeah, it really did take a long time.
Yeah, the history shows that while a few astronomers complained in the 19th century, it wasn't until the 1950s that people really started trying to measure it. And the International Dark Sky Association wasn't even founded until the late 1980s. Why did we have such a massive blind spot?
Well, it all comes back to that psychological conditioning we mentioned earlier. Light is largely viewed as the ultimate, undeniable proof of industrial civilization.
Oh, right. It's like the visual symbol of success.
Exactly. It is deeply, inextricably intertwined with our concepts of progress and economic power. When a country develops, what does it do?
It builds infrastructure.
Right. It paves roads, it builds factories, and it electrifies, it lights up. And as a result, our societal standards completely shifted. We essentially declared war on the night.
We really did. We conquered it.
We made humans more active after sundown, we designed 24/7 global economies, and we embedded this deep-seated belief that a lit space is a safe space, and a dark space is dangerous or impoverished.
So we just couldn't see the downside.
Because of that intense systemic bias, we couldn't step back and see what the light was actually doing. We were so blinded by the utility of illumination that it took us decades to realize that 23% of the entire world's land area is now smothered by skyglow.
We literally couldn't see the stars for the street lamps. But now that we know it's everywhere, we have to recognize that it isn't just one monolithic, glowing blob.
No, it has very specific categories.
Right. The research is very clear that light pollution takes several specific, highly distinct forms. It's almost like a taxonomy of pollution. And each type attacks our environment or our biology in a different way. Let's walk through these. The first, and probably the most relatable, is light trespass.
Yes, light trespass is highly localized. It is exactly what it sounds like. Unwanted, uninvited light entering a property or a space that is supposed to be dark.
Like when someone's headlights shine into your house.
Right. Or the classic example is the municipal street lamp shining directly through your bedroom window at 2 in the morning, casting shadows on your wall and keeping you awake. It is a literal invasion of the private nocturnal environment.
Yeah, it's the light. You literally can't close your blinds tight enough to escape. And then there's over-illumination, which moves from the personal annoyance to the macro level of just staggering energy waste.
The scale of the waste is hard to fathom.
The numbers here are just wild. The U.S. Energy Information Administration reported that U.S. homes consumed 81 billion kilowatt hours of electricity for lighting in just 1 year.
And that's just residential.
Right. Commercial and manufacturing buildings use hundreds of billions more. But what really fascinated me here wasn't just the raw wattage, it was the psychology behind why we over-illuminate.
The ego of it, basically.
Yeah. The research points out that institutions often blast their buildings with light, not for safety and definitely not for navigation, but essentially as a display of dominance. The phrasing used in the sources was literally to show that its empire is inescapable.
It is architecture acting as a billboard for power. I mean, think about any massive corporate headquarters in a major metropolitan downtown.
Okay, picturing it.
It's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. The building is entirely empty, save for a security guard and maybe a cleaning crew. Yet every single floor is blazing with fluorescent light, and these massive megawatt floodlights are positioned on the ground, shining straight up the sides of the glass structure into the sky.
Just blasting the clouds.
Exactly. It served absolutely zero practical purpose. No one is working. No one needs to see the 40th floor from the sidewalk. It is purely a financial and economic flex.
That's a great way to put it. An economic flex.
They are paying thousands of dollars a night in electricity just to remind the sleeping city that their brand exists.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they are blasting millions of useless photons straight into the atmosphere.
It's the visual equivalent of shouting in an empty room. Then we have a category that is a genuine public health hazard, which is glare.
Glare is incredibly dangerous.
The sources break it down into blinding glare, disability glare, and discomfort glare. It's a massive issue, particularly for older drivers. This is the phenomenon you experience when you are driving at night. Maybe it's raining, the roads are slick, and an oncoming car crests the hill with intense, poorly shielded, bluish high beams.
And let's look at the mechanics of why that is so dangerous. It isn't just that the light is annoying. It physically disables your visual system.
How so? Like, what is happening in the eye?
Well, when that intense beam hits your eye, your pupil rapidly constricts to protect your retina from the flood of photons. It's a defense mechanism.
Makes sense.
But because your pupil just shrank to the size of a pinhead, it can no longer take in the faint ambient light reflecting off the road, the lane markers, or, the pedestrian on the shoulder.
Oh, wow. So you lose all the detail.
Right. You experience a total temporary loss of contrast. You are effectively blind at everything except the glare source itself until your eye can slowly readjust, which, and this is key, takes significantly longer as we age.
That physical hazard ties directly into the next category, which is light clutter. This is when you have excessive, confusing groupings of disparate light sources.
It's just visual chaos.
The extreme visual here is the Las Vegas Strip, obviously, but you see it on any busy commercial roadway. You have brightly lit digital advertisements, badly designed streetlights, glowing storefronts, neon signs, and traffic signals, all just competing for your visual attention.
And that light clutter creates a massive cognitive load on drivers.
Because your brain is trying to process all of it at once.
Exactly. The human brain is trying to parse this chaotic landscape of bright spots to find the important information like the brake lights of the car ahead or the actual traffic signal. But those signals are camouflaged by the overwhelming background noise of commercial lighting.
It distracts drivers and obscures actual physical obstacles.
It's a huge safety hazard.
And finally, the last category is skyglow, which is that bright orange or grayish haze that sits over cities like a dome.
The classic light pollution look.
Right. This is caused by artificial light shining upward and laterally, bouncing off moisture, dust, and particles in the atmosphere, and then scattering back down to the ground.
And importantly, we now have a totally modern space-age addition to this skyglow.
Oh, you're talking about the satellites.
Yes. It's not just coming from the ground anymore. We have these massive low Earth orbit constellations like Starlink and Kuiper reflecting sunlight back down to Earth long after the sun has set.
Yeah, they are physically streaking across the paths of telescopes and basically photobombing astronomers. But before we get into the astronomy side of things, I have to push back on one foundational idea we keep brushing past here.
Okay, what is it?
Over-illumination, glare, clutter. Wait, isn't brighter lighting fundamentally better for stopping crime?
The security question.
Right, because if I'm walking to my car in a parking lot at midnight, I want it to be as bright as high noon, right? How is that pollution?
That is probably the single most pervasive, deeply ingrained misconception regarding artificial light, and the empirical data simply does not support it.
Really?
Truly. Increased illumination does not equal increased safety. In fact, improperly designed bright lighting can actively worsen the problem and make you less safe.
Okay, wait, walk me through how more light makes me less safe, because my brain absolutely rejects that.
It comes back to the mechanics of the human eye we just talked about with glare.
The pupil constricting.
Right. When you install an overly bright, unshielded light fixture, like a glaring floodlight on the side of a building, It creates an incredibly intense pool of light.
Okay, yeah, I'm picturing a bright security light.
But because the light is so bright, it casts deep, harsh, high-contrast shadows right next to it.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If you are walking toward that floodlight, your pupils constrict to handle the glare. If someone with bad intentions is standing just outside that pool of light, in the shadow, your eyes physically cannot adjust to see them.
Wow.
The glare blinds you, while the shadow completely conceals them. Furthermore, that disability glare blinds passing police patrols from seeing past the light source.
So the floodlight is basically acting as a flashbang for the pedestrian, giving cover to whatever is in the shadow.
Exactly. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of security.
Mm.
It's never about the raw amount of light. It's entirely about the quality, the evenness, and the direction of the light. Smart light equals safety. Blinding light creates vulnerability.
That completely flips my understanding of security lighting. All right, so if light pollution is manifesting in all these different forms, glare blinding us, trespass keeping us awake, sky glow creating a dome over our cities, how do scientists actually track it?
That's a great question, because measuring it is complex.
I mean, how do you prove mathematically that the dark is disappearing?
Well, to measure how unnatural our environment has become, scientists first had to establish the natural baseline.
Right, what is zero light pollution?
Exactly. And the fascinating thing about the Earth is that a truly natural night sky is never completely 100% pitch black.
Wait, it isn't?
No. Even if you remove the moon and you remove every single human campfire or street lamp, there is still natural illumination. We have a phenomenon called air glow.
Air glow. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. What is physically glowing in the air?
It's essentially atmospheric chemistry.
Mm.
High up in the upper atmosphere during the day, intense UV radiation from the sun hits air molecules and strips away electrons, ionizing them.
Okay, so the sun is charging the air.
Basically, yeah. Then, at night, when the sun is gone, those particles slowly recombine with their missing electrons. As they recombine, they emit a very faint natural glow.
Wow.
It's a continuous chemical luminescence happening miles above our heads. And on top of that, we have zodiacal light, which is arguably even more incredible.
What's zodiacal light?
It is sunlight reflecting off a massive, incredibly diffuse disk of ancient interplanetary dust floating in the plane of our solar system.
That is just deeply cool. So the absolute baseline of darkness on Earth is still faintly illuminated by glowing ionized atmospheric gas and billions of tons of ancient space dust. I love that.
It's beautiful, really.
But obviously what we're dealing with today has completely blown past space dust. To measure how far past the baseline we are, scientists use a combination of top-down and bottom-up tools.
That's starting from space.
Right. From the top down, they use satellite imagery, most notably NASA's Black Marble project, which uses specialized sensors to map the Earth's artificial lights from space. But my question is, if a satellite is looking straight down, isn't it missing all the light that shines sideways?
That's the exact limitation.
Like the light trespass shining into my window, or the glare shining into a driver's eyes. The satellite only sees what escapes straight up.
That is an incredibly astute point, and it's exactly why satellite data alone is insufficient. Satellites are great at capturing upward-directed light, but they completely miss the horizontal emissions that cause so much biological and visual disruption on the ground.
So how do they get the full picture?
To get an accurate picture, scientists have to take that satellite data and feed it into complex physical models that calculate how those photons will scatter through atmospheric molecules and aerosols.
Oh, so they simulate the scattering.
Right. And then, crucially, they ground truth those models using networks of sky quality meters, or SQMs.
Right, the SQMs are down here in the trenches with us.
Exactly. Ground-based monitoring is vital because it tells us what the night actually looks and feels like from the perspective of an organism living on the surface.
And what are those meters telling us?
Well, the long-term data sets coming out of these SQM networks are deeply alarming. A massive study published in 2023 analyzed over a decade of continuous data from monitoring sites all across Europe.
Like major cities.
Covering major hubs like Stockholm, Berlin, Vienna, and surrounding areas. They found that the night sky brightness is increasing annually by 1.7% in rural areas, 1.8% in urban centers, and a staggering 3.7% in intermediate suburban-type areas.
Let's contextualize that 3.7% because in economic terms, 3.7% growth might sound modest. But we are talking about compound annual growth of brightness.
Right, it compounds every year.
If suburban areas are getting almost 4% brighter every single year, the dark isn't just receding, it's being rapidly consumed. The light is bleeding outward from the cities and devouring the suburbs.
That's a very accurate way to visualize it.
And to put a human visual perspective on those percentages, astronomers use a fascinating tool called the Bortle scale. It's a 9-level measuring system designed to track exactly how much of the universe you can still see.
The Bortle scale is an excellent metric for human experience. Level 1 on the scale is a pristine, truly dark sky. The kind of sky where objects like the Andromeda Galaxy or the Triangulum Galaxy are visible to the naked eye.
And what level do you need to see our own galaxy?
To even be able to see the faint structure of our own Milky Way, you need to be in an area ranked at a level 4 or lower.
And here's the devastating statistic from the sources. 80% of North Americans currently live in areas above a level 4.
80%.
80% of the continent can no longer look up and see their own galaxy. I look at the Bortle scale almost like a grim countdown of our fading cosmic visibility. Level by level, 1 through 9, we are just systematically erasing the universe from our daily view.
And we aren't just erasing the distant stars, we are erasing our immediate celestial neighbors.
What do you mean?
The intense skyglow in urban areas is now so bright that it completely suppresses the natural circulunar pattern.
Circulunar meaning the biological rhythm tied to the moon.
Precisely. For billions of years, a massive portion of life on Earth evolved to respond to the waxing and waning of the moon.
Like tides and things.
Tides, yes, but also predator and prey dynamics, mating cycles, tidal feeding. They rely on knowing whether it's a bright full moon or a dark new moon.
Oh, right, because a full moon means you can see predators.
Exactly. But now, in heavily populated areas, the artificial dome of light is so intense every single night that the physical presence or absence of the moon doesn't even register in terms of overall illumination.
Wow.
We have flatlined the lunar cycle. We are fundamentally confusing nature at a deep biological level.
If we are capable of overriding the moon, what is this doing to us? Which brings us to the next massive piece of this puzzle, the physical and economic toll.
And this is where it gets very serious for human health.
Right. This suppression of natural cycles isn't just a bummer for stargazers or an annoyance for amateur astronomers. It is actively, systematically harming our bodies.
Yes, the biological impact is undeniable at this point.
The research gets very specific about the public health impacts, and it primarily zeroes in on the disruption of our circadian rhythms and the suppression of a hormone called melatonin. And this is where the deep dive gets incredibly serious.
It really does.
The World Health Organization actually lists shift work that involves circadian disruption as a probable carcinogen, like asbestos or tobacco smoke.
It sounds shocking until you understand the underlying biology. Melatonin is a crucial foundational hormone.
Most people just think of it as the sleep gummy.
Exactly. People just think of it as the chemical that makes us sleepy at night, something you buy in a gummy form at the pharmacy to beat jet lag. But melatonin does so much more than regulate sleep.
What else does it do?
It is a powerful systemic antioxidant. It regulates a whole host of physiological processes, helps maintain our immune system, and has profound protective effects on our cells, including tumor suppression.
Wait, melatonin suppresses tumors. How does that work?
Essentially, when melatonin levels are high in the bloodstream during the dark of night, it helps regulate cell division and can actually inhibit the growth of certain cancer cells. It hunts down free radicals.
So it's actively repairing us while we sleep.
Yes. But your pineal gland, which produces melatonin, relies entirely on light signals from your eyes. When we are exposed to artificial light at night, what researchers refer to in the literature as ALAN.
Right, LAN, artificial light at night.
Right. When we are exposed to ALAN, the specialized ganglion cells in our retina send a signal to the brain saying, hey, the sun is still up.
Oh, no.
And the brain immediately hits the brakes on melatonin production. We are tricking our bodies into perpetual daytime.
So we aren't getting that repair cycle.
Exactly. And because of that melatonin suppression, multiple large-scale studies have documented a strong, undeniable correlation between night shift work, chronic exposure to light at night, and increased incidence of breast and prostate cancers.
That blows my mind. The light isn't just keeping us awake, it's actively stripping away the body's nocturnal armor.
It is leaving us vulnerable.
The study out of South Korea really hammered the cancer link home for me. Researchers wanted to look at the specific link between exposure to artificial light at night and regional breast cancer levels.
Yeah, that study is a Dark example.
They mapped the light pollution and mapped the cancer rates. They found that Seoul, which has the absolute highest levels of light pollution in the country, had 34.4% more cases of breast cancer than Danwon-do, which had the lowest levels of all in.
A 34% increase.
34% increase. Obviously, urban areas have other factors, but the correlation is massive, and it doesn't stop at cancer.
No, it affects the whole metabolic system.
Right. The research links outdoor artificial light at night to increased risks for obesity and diabetes because the metabolic system is tied to that same circadian clock. It's linked to mental disorders like anxiety and depression.
It really impacts everything.
There was even a 2021 study showing a 13% increase in preterm births before 23 weeks of gestation in areas with high light pollution.
The human health toll is immense, and it's largely invisible to the average person. But this creates a profound, seemingly impossible societal friction.
What do you mean by friction?
Because while our biology, our pineal glands, our cell cycles is crying out for darkness to heal and repair, our global economy is violently demanding light.
Oh, right, because we don't stop working at sunset anymore.
We have constructed a 24/7 consumer machine. Think about modern logistics. Gas stations, pharmacies, and massive manufacturing plants operating round the clock to fulfill next-day Amazon orders.
Yeah, the warehouses never close.
Think about global shipping lanes moving cargo at all hours. And critically, think about emergency services and hospitals. We cannot simply flip a master switch and plunge modern infrastructure into the dark.
Obviously not.
In fact, economic modeling shows that the presence of paved roads and high GDP are almost perfectly correlated with high rates of light pollution. Where there is wealth and industry, there is skyglow.
So we have this massive clash. We have a biological imperative for darkness to prevent cancer and metabolic diseases, but we have an absolute economic and structural imperative for light to keep society functioning.
Exactly. It's a tug of war.
We can't just plunge trauma centers and supply chains into total darkness, right? So how do scientists suggest we reconcile this? We can't all just move to Ganwon-do.
The goal isn't to plunge humanity back into the dark ages or compromise emergency services. The goal, as researchers and lighting engineers are now realizing, is to determine the absolute safest duration and intensity of light exposure, and, critically, the type of light we use.
The type of light?
Yes. Because this is the key. Not all light affects our biology equally.
Okay, break that down. What do you mean by the type of light? A photon is a photon, right?
Not to your biology.
Yeah.
Our circadian systems, specifically those retinal ganglion cells I mentioned, are incredibly sensitive to blue light, light with shorter wavelengths.
Oh, like the blue light from our phones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. The bright blue sky of midday tells the brain it is time to be alert and active.
Right.
But unfortunately, blue light happens to be the exact wavelengths emitted most heavily by modern, bright white LED screens, smartphones, and the first generation of energy-efficient LED streetlights.
So when a city installs those bright white streetlights,
Blasting blue light at midnight is the biological equivalent of drinking a pot of coffee. Red light, on the other hand, having a much longer wavelength, has the absolute least inhibitory effect on melatonin production.
so red light doesn't wake us up the same way.
It doesn't trigger that daytime alert. So to reconcile the economy with our biology, we have to start engineering our nocturnal environments, our street lamps, our warehouses, our hospitals, to work with our circadian rhythm, not against it, by changing the spectrum of the light we use.
That makes a ton of sense. We have to stop treating light like a single thing and start treating it like a dosage of medicine. Too much of the wrong wavelength is literally toxic.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
But here's the truly tragic part of this whole situation. While humans are slowly trying to figure out this complex balance between Amazon deliveries and our melatonin production, and we can at least buy blackout curtains and sleep masks, the rest of the animal kingdom is completely defenseless.
They are totally exposed.
They sleep outside. And the ecological chaos we are causing is staggering. The research estimates the pure economic cost of this ecological deterrent alone is $3.36 trillion per year globally.
Trillion with a T.
Yes, noting that heavily light-polluted ecosystems deliver 40% fewer ecological services. Let's start with the marine environment. Almost everyone knows the heartbreaking story of the sea turtle hatchlings.
Yes, the sea turtle hatchlings are a prime, devastating example of evolutionary betrayal.
Evolutionary betrayal, wow.
For over 100 million years, a newly hatched sea turtle emerging from its nest in the sand knew exactly what to do. scramble immediately toward the brightest, lowest horizon.
Which used to be the ocean.
Right. On a natural, undisturbed beach, that brightest horizon is always the ocean, reflecting the starlight and the moonlight. It was a flawless navigational system.
Until we built hotels.
But today, because of coastal development, the brightest horizon is often a string of beachfront hotels, parking lots, and streetlights inland. So the hatchlings crawl the wrong way.
They just go towards the parking lot.
They crawl toward the roads and the resorts, and they die of exhaustion, dehydration, or predation before they ever reach the water. We weaponize their own survival instinct against them.
It's an evolutionary trap. But the marine impact goes so much deeper than just turtles on the beach. This is where the biological mechanisms get really crazy.
Yes, down to the microscopic level.
The research highlights marine plankton, specifically a type of copepod called Calanus. These are tiny microscopic organisms, but they are the foundational base of the oceanic food web. Everything eats them.
They are essential to the ocean.
And they are sensitive to incredibly low light levels. The data says they can detect light as faint as 0.1 microwatts per square meter. That is virtually nothing to a human eye. But why does their light sensitivity matter so much?
Because it controls the largest mass migration on planet Earth, and it happens every single day.
Wait, a mass migration of plankton?
Yes. Imagine being a microscopic copepod. During the day, the sun acts like a giant spotlight, meaning visual predators like fish can easily see and eat you.
So they have to hide.
So for survival, you sink deep down into the freezing pitch-black depths of the ocean to hide. Then, as the sun sets and the water darkens, a biological alarm clock triggers, and billions of these tiny creatures swim miles upward collectively to feed on surface algae under the safety of darkness.
That's incredible. So it's a vertical migration.
It's an incredibly synchronized vertical migration.
Yeah.
But if a coastal city, an oil rig, or a fleet of brightly lit squid fishing boats creates a massive dome of artificial skyglow over the water, that safe darkness never arrives.
The alarm clock never goes off.
Exactly. The light penetrates the water column, the copepods stay deep, hiding from a sun that has already set, and they starve.
And if they starve...
And because they stay deep, the fish that rely on eating them near the surface also starve. You are literally pulling the foundational block out of the marine food chain.
That is terrifying.
And we see the exact same mechanism in freshwater environments. In lakes, surrounded by brightly lit towns, zooplankton like Daphnia refuse to come to the surface at night to eat algae.
Because they think it's still daytime.
Because the algae isn't being grazed upon, it blooms completely out of control, suffocating the lake, depleting the oxygen, and causing massive toxic algal blooms that kill the fish and ruin the water quality.
All because a street lamp tricked a microscopic bug into hiding.
Exactly.
If this light is capable of collapsing the food chain underwater, what on Earth is it doing in the skies? The research shows we are seeing the exact same level of catastrophic disruption with birds.
The impact on birds is just massive.
Many species of birds migrate at night. They do this to avoid the daytime heat, to avoid predators like hawks, and crucially because they use the stars to navigate. They literally possess a celestial map in their brains.
It's a built-in GPS.
But with our cities completely outshining the stars, they are losing their compass. Furthermore, they aren't just confused, they are actively drawn to artificial light like a magnet, especially in fog or low cloud conditions.
They get pulled right into it.
The result is that millions of birds die every single year by colliding head-on with brightly lit tall towers, skyscrapers, and broadcast antennas.
The mortality rates are astronomical. They become trapped in the beam of light, circling endlessly in confusion until they either strike the glass or drop dead from sheer exhaustion.
It's so severe that there are actual nonprofit organizations dedicated solely to picking up the bodies.
Yeah, volunteers just cleaning up the aftermath.
The text mentions the Fatal Light Awareness Program, or FLAP, operating out of Toronto, and the Lights Out DC program in Washington, D.C. These are armies of volunteers who go out into the city streets every morning during peak migration seasons just to document the sheer number of collisions.
And try to rescue the survivors, if there are any.
Right, trying to rescue the few injured birds that survived the impact. It's a mass casualty event every night. But the craziest thing is, the fix can be unbelievably simple.
This is the part that gives me hope.
The research mentions an offshore natural gas production platform in the North Sea run by Shell. They were having massive problems with migrating birds getting trapped by the rig's intense lighting, circling the platform endlessly. Do you know what they did?
I love this example.
They didn't invent a force field. Just by changing the lighting technologies they were using, tweaking the spectrum and intensity, they reduced the number of circling birds by 50 to 90% almost overnight.
which proves that mitigation is absolutely possible if we care enough to apply it. But we have to apply it across all biological taxa because nothing is immune.
Like bugs, right.
Consider insects. We are currently seeing massive, terrifying global declines in insect populations, often called the insect apocalypse, and light pollution is increasingly recognized as a primary driver.
How does it affect bugs? Just zappers.
Far worse than just sappers. Take fireflies. They are considered crucial bioindicators, meaning the presence and health of fireflies tells us about the overall health of an ecosystem.
Okay, so if the fireflies are gone, the ecosystem is sick.
Right. Fireflies rely entirely on their own bioluminescent flashes to signal each other, find mates, and reproduce. If the background environment is flooded with artificial light from a nearby subdivision, their faint flashes are completely washed out.
Oh, they literally can't see each other blink.
They literally cannot see each other. The mating season fails, and the local population collapses.
And it's not just the flashy bioluminescent bugs, it's the worker bugs too. Moths are incredibly crucial nighttime pollinators. But instead of flying around pollinating night-blooming flowers, they get endlessly distracted, orbiting artificial lights until they die of exhaustion or are eaten by bats.
And that has cascading effects.
Right. If the flowers aren't pollinated, they don't produce seeds, which fundamentally changes the long-term plant ecology and vegetation makeup of an entire region. And then there are the amphibians and reptiles.
Frogs and salamanders.
Frogs, toads, and salamanders exposed to artificial light suffer deeply bizarre physiological changes. The research cites premature metamorphosis, reduced sperm production, and even physical retinal damage caused by the constant light exposure breaking down their cellular structure.
Their little bodies just can't process the continuous photon barrage.
And amid all this, the research introduces a term I had never heard of before, which totally blew my mind: polarized light pollution, or PLP.
Polarized light pollution is a fascinating and deeply concerning subset of the problem.
Yeah, explain this one.
To understand it, you have to know that natural light from the sun or moon is unpolarized. The light waves vibrate in all different directions.
Okay, unpolarized is natural.
But when light bounces off a dark, artificially smooth, man-made surface, like a fresh asphalt road, a glass building, or a dark solar panel, the light waves become polarized, meaning they align and vibrate horizontally.
Okay, so the road makes the light waves flatten out. Why does a bug care about the angle of a light wave?
Because in nature, horizontally polarized light almost exclusively means one thing: water.
Oh, wow.
It's the signature of a flat, dark pond or a river reflecting the sky. Many aquatic insects like mayflies and dragonflies have evolved to specifically look for polarized light to find bodies of water where they need to lay their eggs.
So the asphalt looks like a river to them.
So when a street lamp shines onto a wet asphalt road, it creates intense, horizontally polarized light. The insects swarm the road, thinking it's a river, and laying millions of eggs directly onto the dry pavement where they instantly die.
That's horrifying.
It creates what ecologists call an ecological trap. The artificial environment mimics the natural trigger, tricking the species into behavioral suicide.
That is incredibly bleak. They are laying their eggs on the highway because the light tricked their evolutionary programming. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Nature isn't just dying in some weird, highly dystopian ways. It's actually adapting to the light.
Life finds a way, even if it's strange.
The research notes that certain species of spiders have figured out that streetlights are the ultimate insect magnets. So instead of staying hidden in the dark vegetation, these spiders are intentionally moving out and building their webs directly on the metal lamppost, right in the glare.
They're hunting at the artificial watering hole.
Yes. They are gaining a massive, immediate evolutionary advantage over the spiders that stay in the dark. We are watching the real-time physical rewiring of the food chain centered entirely around our street lamps.
It is a profound, albeit entirely unnatural, adaptation. And what is perhaps most frustrating about all of this ecological damage, the turtles, the birds, the bugs, is exactly how long we have been warned about it.
Have we known for a while?
We tend to think of light pollution as a 21st century problem. But the research highlights a remarkably prescient article from the Los Angeles Times, published in 1897.
Wait, 1897?
1897. The article was titled "Electricity and English Songbirds." Even then, over a century ago, citizens were observing and warning that the new electric streetlights were slaughtering vast numbers of insects every single summer evening.
They noticed it right away.
And they explicitly expressed fear that the local songbirds would die out from the failure of their insect food supply. We have understood the basic mechanics of this ecological destruction since the absolute dawn of the electric age, yet we have allowed it to multiply exponentially for over 100 years.
That 1897 article is genuinely haunting. People in top hats and corsets were looking at the first electric bulbs and saying, this is going to starve the birds. And we just ignored them.
We completely ignored them.
And the damage isn't just happening on the ground in the food web, it's actively altering the chemistry of our atmosphere. The research explains that light pollution actually contributes to the creation of chemical smog.
This is a really surprising link.
I read that line 3 times. How does light, which is just photons, make physical air pollution worse?
It comes down to atmospheric chemistry and the delicate balance of the night. During the day, cars, factories, and power plants pump out nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds.
Right, the building blocks of smog.
But nature has a built-in cleaning mechanism. At night, in the dark, certain compounds called nitrate radicals naturally form and build up in the atmosphere. You can think of nitrate radicals as the night shift cleaning crew.
The night shift cleaning crew, I like that.
Their chemical job is to scrub the air, binding to and breaking down those smog-producing chemicals from the day, neutralizing them.
Okay, so the night cleans up the mess of the day.
Exactly. But a major study presented at the American Geophysical Union found that artificial light from cities actively destroys these nitrate radicals.
It destroys the cleaning crew.
The photons from skyglow physically hit the nitrate radicals and break their chemical bonds, destroying them before they can do their job.
So the smog just stays there.
So the light pollution is literally disabling the atmosphere's natural nighttime cleaning mechanism, allowing the chemical smog to linger, accumulate, and worsen day after day.
That is wild. The light isn't just making it hard to see, it's physically trapping the toxic air. And of course, the most famous victim of all this light in the atmosphere, the group that has been screaming about this the loudest, is the astronomy community.
They've been raising the alarm for decades.
Because the skyglow reduces the visual contrast between the faint stars and the background sky, making deep space objects completely invisible. The research shows a devastating photographic example of the Pinwheel Galaxy taken from an observatory in Berlin.
Oh, that comparison photo is rough.
To even get a hint of the galaxy, the astronomers had to use incredibly fast lenses and spend hours digitally stripping away thick layers of stray blue light caused by a phenomenon called Rayleigh scattering.
Rayleigh scattering is the real enemy of the astronomer.
How does that work?
To understand it, you have to know that different colors of light have different wavelengths. Blue light has a very short, energetic wavelength.
Okay, short and energetic.
When short wavelength blue light from a city's LED streetlights hits the gas molecules in the atmosphere, it scatters violently in every direction. It shatters into a glowing fog.
Like a blue haze.
Exactly. Red light, which has a long wavelength, mostly punches straight through. So by using intensely blue LEDs, cities are maximizing the amount of scattered light fog in the atmosphere.
And astronomers just can't see through it.
Right. And astronomers try to fight this. They use light pollution reduction, or LPR, filters on their telescope eyepieces.
Do those work?
Well, these filters are precision engineered to block the exact spectral lines emitted by older, common streetlights like sodium vapor and mercury vapor lamps.
But those filters aren't a magic cure-all, are they?
No, they are a band-aid at best. First of all, blocking those specific wavelengths fundamentally alters the true color of the object you are studying.
Oh, so it distorts the image.
It's like trying to look at a painting with tinted glasses. It often leaves a harsh, unnatural green cast on the image. Second, they only really work for observing certain types of emission nebulae.
So they don't help with regular stars.
They do almost nothing to help you see broad-spectrum objects like stars or distant galaxies, which get completely washed out anyway. And worst of all, modern broadband LED lights emit light across the entire spectrum, rendering those specific LPR filters completely useless.
So what did the astronomers do?
The only true solution for professional astronomy has been a full retreat. Multi-billion-dollar telescopes are being forced to relocate further and further into the most remote, punishing places on Earth, like the peaks of the pitch-black Atacama Desert in high-altitude Chile, just to escape the glow of humanity.
But professional astronomers with billion-dollar budgets aren't the only ones losing out. We are all losing out. And this brings us to a concept in the research that I found profoundly moving.
The cultural loss.
Yes. The term is noctalgia. It translates literally to sky grief.
Sky grief. It's a powerful term.
It really is. It is the psychological, emotional, and cultural pain of losing access to a starry night sky. The researchers who coined the term point out that looking at the stars has been a foundational part of the human experience for our entire existence as a species.
It's where all our stories come from.
Exactly. The loss of the dark is the loss of awe, of storytelling, of ancient knowledge. The text brings up the Maori people and their deep, vital cultural ties to the Pleiades star cluster.
That's a great example of cultural connection.
For the Maori, the rising of the Pleiades isn't just an astronomical event. It is their navigation system, their agricultural calendar, and the marker of their new year.
It dictates their entire society.
When you erase the stars with a dome of artificial light, you aren't just hiding pretty dots. You are actively erasing a culture's compass and calendar. I mean, think about what it means to lose the stars as a society. It was the original ceiling of human imagination.
Every myth, every religion, every early science, every navigational feat was born from looking up.
It really was.
And it raises a deeply philosophical, yet entirely practical question about who owns the sky and what we owe to future generations. Are the stars merely an aesthetic backdrop that we can pave over with photons? Or are they a fundamental, inalienable part of our global heritage?
That is a heavy question.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature, the IUCN, recently released a massive report arguing strongly for the latter.
That it's our heritage.
Yes. They advocate that the night sky deserves a formal, globally recognized protection scheme. They are pushing for the recognition of natural darkness, not just as a biological necessity for turtles and copepods, but as a crucial cultural, historical, and environmental resource that belongs to all of humanity, present and future.
It's a heavy thought that we are the first generations in the history of the human race to be physically severed from the rest of the universe like this, to grow up under a blank orange ceiling.
It is sad when you frame it like that.
But unlike chemical pollution in the soil, or microplastics deep in the ocean trenches that will take centuries and trillions of dollars to clean up, light pollution has one incredibly unique property.
It's reversible.
It disappears at the exact speed of light the very millisecond you flip a switch. It leaves no toxic residue. It is entirely, immediately curable.
Yes, that is the most optimistic part of this entire deep dive.
So let's pivot to the solutions. How do we actually fix this without plunging our 24/7 economy back into the literal dark ages?
The instinct for a lot of municipalities is to point toward energy efficiency. They say, we'll just swap all our old bulbs for highly efficient LEDs to save power, and that's our good deed.
Because LEDs use less power.
Right. But the research warns us about a massive pitfall called the rebound effect, which is essentially Jevons paradox applied to light.
What's the rebound effect?
When a resource like lighting becomes highly energy efficient and incredibly cheap to operate, people in cities tend to use more of it.
Oh, because it's cheap, they just leave it on.
Or they install more. If it costs a fraction of the price to run an LED floodlight, a business might install 5 of them instead of 1. This fundamentally negates the environmental benefits and makes the skyglow even worse.
Ah, I see. So what is the actual solution?
True remediation requires a multi-pronged approach based on smarter usage, better physical fixture design, and utilizing biologically appropriate spectrums.
Smarter usage means just turning things off when they aren't actively needed, which sounds obvious, but we just don't do it.
We really don't.
The research mentions simple, scalable things like installing occupancy sensors on commercial buildings and streetlights so they only brighten when a pedestrian or a car is actually present. But my absolute favorite large-scale example of this is aircraft detection lighting systems, or ADLS, used on massive wind turbine farms.
Oh, that technology is brilliant.
Those giant turbines are required by the FAA to have bright, blinking red lights to warn airplanes, but those blinking lights drive rural residents absolutely crazy and totally disrupt the local nocturnal environment.
Because they just blink all night, constantly.
ADLS solves this by using radar to detect if a plane is actually approaching the airspace. If the sky is empty, the blinking lights stay completely off. It's brilliant. It only flashes when it is functionally necessary for safety.
It's a perfect example of intelligent deployment. We don't need the light on if no one is there to see it.
Right. What's the next step?
The next step, which requires an infrastructure overhaul, is fixture design. We need to transition exclusively to what are called full cutoff fixtures.
What does full cutoff mean?
If you look at older streetlights, like the classic drop lens Cobra luminaire you see in many neighborhoods, the glass bulb physically sags below the metal housing.
Yeah, it hangs down.
This allows the light to scatter horizontally directly into people's eyes, causing glare, and upward into the sky, causing skyglow. It's wildly inefficient.
Or spilling light everywhere.
Exactly. A full cutoff fixture, like a modern flat lens Cobra, houses the LED panel entirely up inside the metal shield. 100% of the light is directed cleanly downwards, exactly where it is needed on the road or the sidewalk.
Oh, so it blocks it from going up.
It instantly eliminates upward light trespass and vastly reduces the ambient glow.
But I've actually heard pushback on that from city planners. Some people argue that full cutoff fixtures look less aesthetically pleasing because you can't see the glowing bulb itself from down the street.
People get attached to the look.
People are used to seeing a row of glowing orbs. I always compare it to taking the thick, sugary icing off a cake to make it healthier. It's undeniably better for your body. But people miss the immediate sugar rush of the visual glow. Can we really convince people to care more about the stars, the migrating birds, and their own melatonin production than the decorative, traditional look of their glowing yard lamps?
We absolutely can, especially when it is tied to economic savings and immediate improvements in local quality of life.
Money talks.
It always does. And that brings us to the third and perhaps most vital factor, adjusting the spectrum of the light.
Right, going back to the blue versus red light.
We discussed earlier that the human circadian system, and a vast majority of wildlife, is highly sensitive to blue wavelengths. Unfortunately, the first generation of cheap, ultra-bright LED streetlights rolled out by cities a decade ago were incredibly heavy in blue light.
They were so harsh.
This blue light shut down melatonin, and because of Rayleigh scattering, it exponentially worsened skyglow. The current scientific consensus is that we must swap those harsh blue-white LEDs for warmer options, like low-pressure sodium lights or amber LEDs.
And there was a specific band of light they mentioned avoiding.
Specifically, the research emphasizes that we need to rigorously avoid emitting light in the P-band, the wavelengths between 440 and 540 nanometers, to protect our scotopic vision.
Let's break that down for the listener. What is the P-band and what is scotopic vision?
Inside your eye, you have two main types of photoreceptors, cones and rods. Cones handle your daytime color vision.
Okay, cones for color.
Rods are responsible for your scotopic vision, which is your highly sensitive night vision. Rods don't see color well, but they are incredible at detecting faint shapes in the dark.
So rods help you see in the shadows.
The catch is that your rods are peak sensitive right around 500 nanometers, which is the blue-green part of the spectrum, the P-band.
Oh, so if you hit them with blue light?
If you blast the street with 500 nanometer blue-white light, you completely overwhelm and bleach the rod cells. You instantly destroy a person's night vision, making them blind to anything in the shadows.
Going back to the floodlight flashbang effect.
Exactly. By shifting to warmer amber lights above 540 nanometers, we allow people to actually use their natural night vision, making the streets infinitely safer, while simultaneously reducing the blue light scattering in the sky.
It's a win-win. We get our night vision back, the sky glow drops, and the birds stop crashing into buildings. And we know this framework works because we have real-world examples of cities taking bold action.
Yes, there are great models to follow.
Flagstaff, Arizona is the gold standard here. They have had incredibly successful, strict dark sky ordinances in place for decades, working hand in hand with local observatories. They proved you can have a thriving, safe city under a dark sky.
Flagstaff is a fantastic example.
Calgary did a massive citywide streetlight retrofit, specifically to save money and the environment, swapping to efficient, targeted fixtures. Switzerland took a legislative approach with a concept called specific electric power consumption, setting strict legal targets for exactly how many watts per meter a road is allowed to use, forcing engineers to be hyper-efficient.
And then there's the Lombardy region in Italy.
Right, which is just an incredible success story.
Lombardy is a fantastic case study in how to do this right. They implemented a strict, sweeping regional act requiring zero upward light, which legally mandated full cutoff designs for all public lighting.
Zero upward light. I love that. And did it work?
And the result. By 2007, Lombardy had the absolute lowest per capita energy consumption for public lighting in all of Italy.
Wow, they proved it saves money.
They proved definitively that strict light pollution laws don't just save the night sky and protect delicate ecosystems, they save municipalities massive amounts of taxpayer money.
Which makes it an easy sell to politicians.
Exactly. This kind of success has fueled the rapid growth of international dark sky places. There are now 195 certified reserves globally, where communities have banded together to protect the dark.
I read there was a really big one in Asia.
Yes. This includes a massive 2,500 square kilometer reserve in Tibet, specifically designated to preserve natural darkness for future generations.
That's incredible. So, to pull all of this together, We have the technology to fix it. We have the legislation templates from places like Lombardy and Flagstaff, and we clearly have the economic incentive. We just need the societal will to see the light differently.
It's just about changing our mindset.
To summarize our journey today, we started by looking at what we thought was just a leaky faucet of photons and realized we were actively drowning in an ocean of them.
An ocean that is making us sick.
Exactly. We've learned the hard biological truth that light pollution is a potent disruptor tied directly to cancer and metabolic disease. It is a massive ecological wrecking ball costing trillions of dollars, trapping turtles and rewiring the oceanic food chain.
And it's a cultural thief.
Right, stealing our ancient ancestral connection to the stars and the universe. But unlike almost any other environmental crisis we face, it is entirely curable with smarter design, warmer spectrums, and community awareness.
And that leads to a final thought I want to leave you to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive.
Oh, please do.
We have been conditioned by over a century of rapid industrialization to view darkness merely as an empty void, a frightening blank canvas waiting to be conquered and filled with human invention and brilliant illumination.
That's how we've always seen it.
But the science we've explored today tells us the exact opposite is true. Natural darkness is not a void. It is a rich, dynamic, and biologically vital environment.
It's a habitat.
It is an endangered natural resource, just as essential to the survival of the planet's ecosystems and our own cellular biology as clean air and fresh water.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
So the next time you step outside at night and look down your street, don't just look at the fixtures. Ask yourself,
Right.
what is the light around you actually illuminating and what is it erasing?